Good evening, friends. Welcome to the Leader's Edge, Episode 1, Season.
Everyone, and welcome to our weekly webcast called The Leader's Edge. We are here tonight.
Welcome to episode number 7, Season
Leader's Edge. And in our show today, which is Season 6,
Leader's Edge, Season 3, Episode 10. And
I'm Nelson T. Welcome to this super special episode of The Leader's Edge.
And this is episode 8 of season 6.
Hey guys, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
We are now on our season 6, episode 2. And tonight, we have an amazing and a wonderful
Good day and welcome to the Leader's Edge Season 7. Innovation involves coming up with, creative ideas and bringing them to life. For innovation to occur, the creative idea or insight must be put into action to make a genuine difference. In this session, entitled Unleashing Creativity and Innovation, we will discuss the why, the what, and how of creativity and innovation. We start with building the business case on why there is a need to build a culture of creativity and innovation in organizations. And from there, we will talk about the best practices of innovation vanguard companies and how these can be applied in our respective organizations. And today, it is truly my privilege and my pleasure to be with a good friend in human resources and organizational development many, many years ago. But of course, it would be much better if I will now call on our guest speaker for this morning or for today, none other than Serely Alcaraz. Welcome, Serely.
Hello. Hi, Grace.
Hi.
And good day to everybody who is spending their time listening to this video. Wow, it has been quite some time, dear neighbor.
I know. And when I was asked to host you, I did not hesitate to say yes. I have been saying, I've been invited several times, but for so many occasions, Serely, my schedule just didn't fit. And so when Nina said, Grace, can you host Serely? I said, of course, it's gonna be my pleasure. And it's gonna be in January, the first week. And what else can be better, right? So Serely, can you introduce yourself, please, to our audience? I know that I know you, you know me, but we have viewers out there who would really be wanting to know who you are.
Okay, sure, Grace, my pleasure. I believe let's start it off with even my first name, Sara Lee. What perhaps some people wouldn't know is the origin of the name. It is actually a product of my parents' creativity and innovation. That is Sergio, my dad, and Elizabeth, my mom. So you see, pretty creative, Sir and Ellie. Put them together, you got me. So,
Oh my God, really? I never realized that.
See, I think many also wouldn't know that. And that I believe even when it comes to my first name, a bit more unique. Because when I Google myself, very rare. And that also would bring about some recall from my participants because they say, yeah, Miss Serely, we cannot forget you because of the name, okay? And my usual, the way that I would usually introduce myself, I will say that I would often get asked, you have siblings? What are their names? I have a brother, and his name is Eli Sir. from
Oh my
Serely
goodness,
and
is
Ellie
that true?
Sir. Yeah, true
Oh
story,
my.
Grace. And there are no more siblings, no? Because it's I think they ran out now of what else to name their kids. But for me, that is a true testament to how much I have I have like a story to tell. It becomes my intro every time that I do workshops. So to go back to your question about how I would describe myself, perhaps I'll borrow it from my LinkedIn profile. I would often say there that I'm a trainer and facilitator. And ever since, that has been a true passion. I found my ikigai, okay, my
Yes, yes.
passion and mission and vocation and profession, all with being able to be a messenger, no, a conduit in terms of being able to provide my participants with what they need to learn and understand in order to be better in their jobs. So, a trainer and a facilitator, a coach and a mentor, because I'm currently for the last 15 years I've been with the Institute of Training and Development, and we are ITD world, and we're very much known in the coaching and mentoring sphere. So something that I both love to do. At the same time, I would call myself a master connector, if not networker. This one just rediscovered through by being a founding member of BNI, GRIT chapter, Business Network International, plus a lector and commentator at
My
Greenbelt
goodness.
Chapel. My longest, I would tell Father June Sescon, our chaplain, it's my longest job ever since I was with DDI. I have been a lector commentator and very much a servant leader as well as a volunteer for my advocacies. I call that my, in Tagalog, I would say, para sa bayan no, advocacies, because I feel that if you have been definitely blessed, then it is also time to give back.
True. Very, very true. Sarah Lee, you talked about DDI, and it brings me back to several years ago when I think that was the first time I met you.
Yes.
When we had to meet, I was the HR of the company then, and
I
you
remember
presented
that.
you presented to me and the team
Yes. Yes.
what the programs of DDI. So my gosh, this spans decades.
And it was like out, it's like not in Manila, right? It was in a business park, if my memory serves me right. And you know
Yes,
that since DDI, I also transferred as well to Dale Carnegie. No? So
yes,
there's
yes.
even that space, no?
The
And then
chair.
after Dale Carnegie, then ITD na. No? So
How
it's
have you
been
been with
really
ITD?
because it's almost like my baby, Grace, because I started it here. So when so it's a Malaysian organization. The headquarters is in Malaysia way back 1985, and it's institute of training and development, so it's like a school. So when it started in Philippines, I'm already practically employee number one, although I know there were other employees before me. And it's so nice to have seen the organization really grow and make its mark. And now I'm not even too much a part now of the local operations, because I've been given also the opportunity to help the other ITD locations. No? So parang internationally
Wonderful.
growing our business. And Grace, if I may, very close to my heart because it puts Philippines on the map. I'm very
Yes,
proud of the Pinoy trainers,
yes.
May it be on creativity and innovation, may it be on leadership. Ang pinaka-favorite nila, team building, I'm so blessed to get the opportunity to really conduct workshops in many, many countries. That's
Countries.
what I miss with this pandemic. But every time that they would say, "Oh, you're Filipino," so they can hear it from my accent, that their eyes will light up because most likely, oh, this is going to be a fun session. So I like how they will equate the Pinoy equals fun, creative session. So
Correct, correct. The
I'm very,
fun
very
of
proud of that.
learning.
Yes,
And
very
it
true.
should be. It should be.
True,
That's why
true.
even today, we're really going to have fun learning from you on the
Okay.
topic that you have chosen. And that's why we invited you. It's unleashing
You.
creativity and innovation.
All right.
So, how would you start with a very, very timely rather? And I'm sure everybody's just talking about innovation and creativity, but let's hear it from you, Sarah Lee.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Grace. Actually, when I was listening to you introducing the topic, I go, as always, Grace nails it. Because I would often start it off with differentiating the two. Because every so often I would hear, oh, what's creativity? Innovation. What is innovation? Creativity, right? It's almost like synonymous with each other. But what you said really makes a difference. The way that I would frame it is that creativity is the idea generation portion, isn't it? It's like it's coming up with ideas. So that's where we need to make sure that, no judgment in Tagalog, bawal judgmental when it comes to the topics, right? So it's like free flowing, go, go, go. I remember we used to call this green light thinking. Because all the ideas, everything is welcomed. Why? You're after here quality, not quantity. Sorry, reverse. You're after quantity, okay? The more ideas, the better quality later, okay? What you want is numerous ideas that you would want to put into the table. No judgment, and that is the reason why many times Grace will encourage for creativity. Write it down. Don't talk.
Right. Correct, correct.
Diba? Because sometimes every time we start talking, we would put down another person's idea. Or even worse, Grace. And this is what I often see. We put down our own idea. And that kills creativity. So for me, my
Exactly.
heart is really towards that. If ever that's really my primary intention. Why? And this was like, my goodness, maybe more than a decade ago. I I actually curated this Unleashing Creativity and Innovation program. I have been blessed to learn from the best, okay, to be the best. Because the initial start of that, and I'll go to innovation in a moment, friends. Don't worry,
Sure,
I can still
sure.
remember innovation. But starting it off with creativity, there was actually a request from a client. They want to develop creativity as a competency. So I said,
Hmm.
okay, let's see what's also in the market to add to what ITD has already provided for me. You see, when we first started ITD in Philippines, we were I would really count my lucky stars. I got the chance to learn personally from Tony Buzan, the father of mind mapping. So he was here. ITD brought him to Manila, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, to the countries where ITD is located to run Unleashing the Genius of Creativity and Innovation. So that unleashing portion of it, I owe it to a dear, dear friend and mentor, Tony Buzan, who unfortunately is no longer with us since about 2 or 3 years back. But his legacy in terms of mind mapping definitely, definitely continues. Then 2000,
Unleashing is a, sorry,
go ahead,
sorry.
go ahead,
Unleashing
Grace.
is a very powerful word,
Yeah,
right?
it
If
is, it
you
is.
just stop, listen, and reflect on that word,
Oh, yeah.
like how do you unleash? How do you jumpstart
Okay. Good question.
creativity in a person?
Yeah, yeah. you see, and perfect timing for the question, because I was just describing our one of our mega gurus, Tony Buzan, right? And that's the reason why we also entitled his program Unleashing the Genius of Creativity and Innovation, because he was actually commenting on, and he actually shared it with us, a Utah study. Okay, so it is a study that was done in Utah, USA, wherein the respondents were asked to evaluate the percentage of creativity quotient, because there's CQ, right? Just as there's
Hmm.
IQ, there's
There's
EQ, so there's
EQ.
CQ, yeah. So the creativity quotient in terms of percentages, from kindergarten and then all those school stuff until university, until adult. And you're looking at least a 95% when you're in kindergarten, primary school around 70%, thereabouts. And you know the pattern. It will go lower and lower to the point that adults are practically just would somehow be, the rating for CQ would just be around 15 to about 30%. Hence the word unleash. Because for something to be unleashed, I think the game plan is it's there already, isn't it? Right? So it's there already. You just have to you have to bring it out. Okay, you have to unlock whatever key there is and bring out what is there. So in his study, he was in that Utah study, Tony Buzan was sharing that what is our normal now is actually not our natural state. So if
Why
there's
is
one
that
thing,
so?
if if there's one thing that I would want our viewers and listeners to actually carry from this session, is that we are born creative. Our natural state is actually creative. And who can actually attest to that? Your kids. Okay. The kids, right? You will be amazed at how creative they become. That's why mothers, be careful of where you put your lipstick. Well, if you're still wearing one and it's still on your makeup kit, because when caught, no, when you are not, when they are on their own, that can become their paint, okay, over your walls. And if
Oh
you
yeah.
tell them no, they would just find ways of somehow convincing you to say yes. How? Ask again and ask one more time until you say, sige na nga, okay, okay. So you'll find a way to unleash that creativity and innovation. So let's just take a look at our kids. So those are, and that's the reason why, Grace, I'm very, very passionate about this topic. In fact, when Leader Edge folks actually asked me, I gave them a couple of titles on topic I can share, but one that is quite on top of my list every time is really creativity and innovation. Quite a lot of trainers are in the coaching and mentoring sphere. Not a lot are in this creativity and innovation sphere. And there are bits and pieces. And I really personally, I'm having fun every time that
Yes,
I
I can
I
see.
run
I can
this
see it.
course, because
Right.
it is so interactive, Grace, because it's creativity, obviously, and innovation is not something that you can teach through a textbook, no? In fact, the cousin of creativity and innovation is actually design thinking, isn't it? So I
Mhm,
think many might
mhm.
be familiar
That's
also with
another,
design, another
right.
field altogether. And because I'm so curious about the cousin of the course that I am facilitating, I'm now actually a student. So I took a 2-month online course from MIT Sloan on design thinking. And
Wonderful.
it has worked for
Serely,
me,
let's go
Grace.
back to,
Sure.
I mean, I like your example about the children.
Yep.
You know, it made me go back actually to several memories from my own daughter. There was one time I woke up and she painted on my toes. And I couldn't open my toes. When I got out of bed, my toes were all together. And because she painted on it with the nail polish, but it was more of painting all over my toes. So, which brings me to the question, Serely. If you become creative, do you put yourself in a childlike mindset? Because the children are so creative, and therefore, if you unleash that creativity in you, is it correct to say, hey, you've got to be childlike too, in one way or the other?
Bullseye, Grace. And it's the reason why I told you the trainer, I think, is having more fun than the participants when we do this. Okay, pre-pandemic, Grace, you would have, you might think that my training room is a toy store. Okay.
Right?
So every time
Yeah.
that I do unleashing creativity and innovation, my team knows this. I have like a trolley because I put in so many toys there. It becomes a bit of a challenge when I get executives in my class and they say, so
What's
what are we
that?
doing? What are we gonna do here? So I kind of tame it down if I'm dealing with a bit more on the higher ups, right? But basically I just let it flow. I'm a big fan of really going to the toy store and having really, because if you just observe your if you observe our participants, Grace, when I do unleashing creative innovation, and I had back then, right, I would have those toys there and all. While waiting, OMG, they're going to like tinker with
Right.
it. They have a
Right.
scenario now where the dinosaur ate the elephant, and then on top of them is the monkey. They would have a narrative to it.
Right.
And
Right.
I think, Grace, that's also why, and this is another, after my design thinking, I'm also targeting this one, the Lego serious play.
I was just gonna mention that. I was waiting.
Right, Grace?
Gilbert, Gilbert
Mm.
Kamasura. I
Oh,
hope he
yes, our
watches the
friend.
show. Our
Okay.
dear friend brought somebody to CCAP. This is
Yes,
the Contact Center Association, and we
correct.
did a Lego session,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Lego learning session.
Correct. Because that is how also, and this is a testament also to Lego's own creativity and innovation journey, they felt like, hey, it's not only the kids having fun with the Lego set, it's the parents, okay?
Exactly.
It's the dad.
Right.
So why not get them into that's why it's called Lego Serious Play. IDD, we also have one of our trainers very much certified into this program. And I watched him work. It, it's like an execom, okay? Really a group of executives for for one of our client organizations. And wow, it was a deep approach, Grace, because they might be using creativity and innovation as they were kind of forming their own, their own tableau, okay, their own picture, no, the representation, the own symbol. But when you ask them to explain what it's all about, I think that's where the depth, no,
Correct.
really the, oh wow, I've never seen it viewed like this. And people open up because that was like a group of, some of them are engineers, and they're not the typical, sorry pause for the engineers
Yeah.
who are here, they're not very vocal. But when they have a symbol, they did it with their hands. Wow, that was like they're so proud of their babies, so they have like the symbolism is so rich that I would say, wow, that one is really unleashing creativity and innovation as well.
Correct. And you're right, with very tactical people, right? People who deal
Hmm.
with numbers or would rather deal with numbers. They don't think that they're creative enough or innovative enough.
Oh wow.
But what you're doing is you're putting them in a session, like you structure it, quote unquote, in such a way that whatever their competencies are with their numbers, with being engineers, IT, or even the executives, right, who would only think of numbers, P&L, sales and marketing,
Oh,
then you
yeah.
put them into this session, right? So what were the challenges that you have seen with your trainees,
Mm-hmm. Yep,
and
yep, yep.
how did you make them help them, or coach them
Yes.
overcome the challenges?
Great, great question, Grace, if I may say so myself. So perhaps let's start off with the first one, mindset. Mindset. I mean, from the very beginning, so just to share with you, the Utah study that I mentioned, before I reveal that, I actually asked participants to rate their own CQ. Yeah, to rate their own creativity quotient. And then, sometimes I would get mixed reviews, Grace. There are some who would rate themselves like an 80, an 85, and that is pretty high already. But there were some who were like, some even rated themselves 0, or 5, and which I can actually do now, even in a one of the most common programs that I conducted last year was also creativity and innovation. Now we do it via Mentimeter, isn't it? Where you
Yes,
can rate
yes,
yourself, na?
yeah.
So I would still get, you know what I did with Menti? I didn't put 0. Para 1 is the lowest number. Okay. But I would tease them and say, and the others will even be justified, no, and say, see, I only rated myself 10 or 15 because that's the normal. Okay, that's the adult. But what I do is I dig deeper into that. The particular rating you know why the particular rating on why rate yourself 15? Okay,
Right,
right, and why
right.
rate yourself 80? And you know what I realized, Grace, to answer your question, ganun talaga. So first is that I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I love it whenever they say, Serely, that's the reason why I am in your class. Okay.
Yes.
So I go, okay. That's a given, That's the reason why I'm here. So I like it when they open up like that and they realize that there is still some space for me to be creative. What my major challenge is when I'm really stuck, okay, I'm really stuck, I cannot be creative anymore, and that is the reason why the mindset na yung parang okay, di ba? And I'm sure Grace and even the trainers who are listening here, di ba, yung mga parang ay, no. Di ba? Parang there's already that
Oh,
major resistance. So that one is one of the major challenges. I would even coordinate with my contact person. Make sure they're open to it, huh? Make sure they
oo.
sign up for it. Because if you make it a requirement, ayun na. Okay, you make it a requirement, they might not be as open. So that's one. Second, I would often see, okay, so okay na sila, no? They have that mindset already. The next hurdle, and a lot has this, environment. They feel like they don't have the environment that supports creativity and innovation. And I would often, I don't think there's a program where I didn't have a participant tell me, seriously, how can I be creative? I am forced. Okay, come on. What's your idea? Yung they dread brainstorming sessions because it's not anymore fun. There's like it's like you're being their life is being squeezed out of them. Plus, and there's actually a YouTube video on this na creativity requires time, right? It cannot be that you'll pressure somebody to, come on, okay, what
Creative.
ideas do you have? What ideas do you have?
Yes.
And then I go, no idea na. There's blood already here, oh. Yung ganyan. Because they're so pressured. And all the more if people are pressured, then they would not have this anymore. So
Mhm.
if I can summarize that mindset challenge, and I think very big would really be the environment challenge, because environment could include the culture in the organization, Sadly, environment can also include our bosses,
Our
right?
leadership, the leadership.
Leadership, right?
Mhm.
Because very much like leadership and culture, right?
Yes.
They're really so intertwined. Yeah. And then maybe to a certain to a certain amount, a level in that environment would also be resources. Thinking that it might be a bit more expensive, etc. I say, I really spend time, Grace, debunking on these myths, no myths about creativity, because I feel like, and I think as trainers we would agree, sometimes even if you have the skills na, you won't apply it there because you have those baggages. No? And so the 2 days that you spend in the workshop is nothing. So we address that from the very beginning, so that at the onset, no, we start tabula rasa, we start on a clean slate, and then let's make it happen.
You mentioned earlier, Sarah Lee, that there was an organization, and there are several organizations now that would put creativity and or innovation,
Mm.
right, into the core competence, especially let's say of their leaders. So,
Yeah.
how do you push that? How do you encourage that? Like the leaders can always say, hey, let's put it on paper, define creativity and
Mm.
innovation, and it should be
Yep.
part of their core
Yeah.
competency.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
True.
how do you make it happen?
True. And we've seen it time and time again, diba? They would even put
Correct.
it as part of their, I know of organization putting it as part of their values. Yeah? Nasa values pa
Appraisal.
yan. Nasa appraisal, etc. Let's start with the basic, my dear leaders. Lead by example, period. Okay, right? Can you really tell us, for example, that you yourself, you are creative? And let me backtrack a bit also, Grace, ha, na many think that creativity, and this is, I remember mentioning that I will come back for the innovation piece. So let me
Right,
just kind
right.
of clarify that, Grace, because knowing myself, I would just go on, and I might not be able to go back to it. that 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 major difference between the two is that the innovation is the overall process, eh. Diba? It's that whole coming up with ideas and putting them to life is that whole innovation. Some
There
would
you
say
go.
creativity is a subset of innovation. It's if creativity is the idea generation portion of the innovation process, the innovation process does not stop there, right? You will still move into the idea selection. So nandun na siya sa, you will select the idea. Then if you put your prototyping, right, you're gonna test it, you have a hypothesis, and so on and so forth. What I see a lot of leaders do, now let's go back to leaders, okay? What I see a lot of leaders do, they compress the idea generation and the idea selection in one sitting. So when somebody suggests, ay, that cannot be done. Ay, we don't have budget for that. Patay, okay? Don't compress the two. I would often tell leaders, please separate them. Separate that exercise. Meeting one, only idea generation. Okay? If somebody judges any of the idea, ay, talagang ganon, may whip. Okay? Call them out. Call them out, because
Right,
as a
right.
leader, that's you set the tone. You set the tone, my dear leader. So that's one. So please keep it separate. What you do, generation lang talaga to. You just generate all the ideas, and then our suggestion, 'di ba, put it on paper, right? So you can have whatever post-its
Name
pre-pandemic.
it.
Now
Yeah.
you have your Jamboard. You now have all of those, technology for you. Just create a list of all the ideas generated by everybody with whatever means necessary. There's Scamper, diba? There's a different creativity tools. you would have like card storyboards. So you use all the
Right.
tools, brain writing, brainstorming. So put all those ideas together without the names, obviously, of the people who suggested them. Para nobody can already feel so, hey, that was my idea and it got rejected. Yeah. So sanitize everything is just an entire list. And then next meeting, that's when you can do the idea selection. You can even come up with, for example, and leaders who are listening here, feel free to just use any of the tips that I'm sharing now. What you might want to do is parang come up also with again pwedeng votation. Okay, you can vote for all the ideas that are there. If some ideas there are already very strong proponents from the team, you can even ask the proponents to kind of say their piece, but the proponents are not allowed to vote because we know already they're gonna vote for their idea. And please, last tip, if you are the leader, please, please go last. Okay, in fact, don't even, if you feel like you cannot really contain yourself, don't even go na to the session
Right.
because people
Right.
are actually looking at your face. Like what ideas, not your eyes will sparkle, what ideas you will go like this. People will read our faces and they would know which idea sits well with you. And the tendency, almost all cultures, whatever sits well with the boss, that is what we're going to use.
True. Very true. Like the leaders have really, you know that they have a very strong influence on people and their culture. So even in sessions
Yes.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Even during those sessions. So I think I like what you said. Don't go. So give them that freedom. Give them
That's
that freedom to unleash,
right.
their
Yeah.
creativity within their
So
bones, or
true. Mm,
it's
mm,
some
mm,
they really have it in their DNA.
mm, 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 mm.
And
Yeah.
I think as leaders to be open,
Yeah.
don't shoot them down. Listen, listen,
Yes.
listen,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so
Agree. Agree.
from there, Sarah Lee,
Mm.
where does innovation come in?
Okay. So, the innovation is really, so I think creativity were cool, right? Because I,
Well,
I think I
yes,
really spent quite a lot for creativity. I really tell people that because that's the jump off point there. Huh? Now, with the innovation, I will now introduce this time, Grace, several more skill sets, all right, that maybe not a lot of people would equate with innovation. Because at least with creativity, we're cool, diba? We know that it's the ideas, it's the idea fluency, free flowing, playfulness, etc. But what maybe some might not realize for innovation, and this was something that I also learned this time from another guru, and I want to acknowledge him as well. His name is Robert Tucker. He is a mega guru of ITD. We brought him to Philippines and to the other ITD countries 2009 and 2010. And I really appreciated the framework and the structure that he has put into his model, because there's a lot of innovation books out there, Grace, right?
right.
You would have so many I don't even want to mention lest I forget one of them. So, but with Roberts, what Robert did is he calls this innovation vanguard companies. And this was like around that era, no, 2009, 2010. I'm sure Robert would have his new set of innovative companies now. I know Forbes does it, and Boston Consulting Group will also come up with the most innovative companies. And this going back to that skill set that I was sharing with you, it actually requires what he calls, well, for Robert Tucker, he calls this the I skills, innovation skills. Okay, no relation to the Apple the Apple series,
Uh,
but it has what he call I skills. And what does the I skills include? First, the obviously the willingness to take risks. and take calculated risks, because let's face it, you will not innovate, because especially when it comes to innovation, creativity, idea, so that's okay. But remember, innovation has a fee na, right? It has a cost, because you're gonna be investing in and gonna be, some would even say talagang betting, no? It's just like there's bet, okay? You're gonna bet on a particular idea. So are you willing to risk it? So then we go back. If the organization frowns on risk taking, we won't make innovation fly. Right? Doon na lang tayo. Let's just go to the safe, di ba? And never mind if it's not creative, that's okay. At least we won't waste money. So that's one, risk taking. Second, collaboration. You cannot be an innovator if, ay, this is my idea, ha? O yung parang if everything's all about credit, oh my goodness, that's the surest way for the idea to fail. It's not
Fail.
about credit grabbing. It has to be, like ako, for myself, if I have an idea that I want to propose, even for ITD, you know the first thing that I will do? I'll actually share it with my contemporaries, okay? With the country head of Vietnam, the country head of Thailand. What do you think of this idea? Do you think it would fly? Yung ganyan. So the more that I don't make it my idea, the more that I make it our idea, I'm telling you, Grace, it's so easy for it to fly. Kasi I don't get na the lack of support, diba? Kasi everybody, they feel
Buy
like it is
in.
ours,
Yeah.
diba? It is
Yes.
ours. And part of that, so the collaboration, the third one is obviously, what if somebody doesn't like it? No, what if they don't really feel it? So that's where the selling comes in. So innovation has a selling component as well. Of course, part of that, timing, diba, would now be the best time to really pitch this. Because you're at the end of the day, you have to pitch. You have to, and now what I'm realizing from that design thinking class, Grace, is come up with a prototype pala. It really, really works. Parang a visual representation of whatever it is you're proposing. Kasi iba, we're really visual creatures. It's so easy. Talagang literally a picture is worth 1,000 words. So prototype your idea, 'di ba? Kasi explain, explain. Tapos you come up with this thick of an abstract and an executive summary. Blah. Come up with a one-pager, okay? Your executives, they value their time. They wouldn't have
Correct.
time to pore over it. One-pager lang, the benefits, diba? What's in it for me? How much is it gonna cost? And lastly, if you want also to innovate, sorry, I've last two. So financials has to be put into place. How sure are we that we can really recover the cost? And my last point, please make it quote unquote reversible. Yung parang it's easy to reverse yung whatever changes you make. Kasi I think even as a business owner, diba, you would always see, OMG, you mean we're gonna change so much? Yung mga ganyan, no? So parang ganun lang yan. Parang how to eat an elephant, diba? So piece by piece. If you're a very big organization, my humble suggestion is start with a pilot run. Don't change the entire organization. Are you crazy? You can't be able to
Right.
change the entire company. Come up with a pilot study, a pilot run, and then that's what you use to sell it to the other departments that are somehow open, no, to change. So I that was such a mouthful, but thank you. Those are some of the things that are top of my head when it comes to
Very,
addressing.
very helpful. Very helpful. Serely, you've done a lot of these workshops, right? And can you share with us what you would, based on what you have seen, what you have experienced, what would stand out as the most innovative and or creative um, idea or project that you have encountered?
Okay. As you were just describing, no, the question for me,
Yeah.
um, I think let me answer it two ways. One is the most creative process, okay? Process muna that we had to go through. And it was actually not in the Philippines. It was pre-pandemic. You know that our headquarters is in Penang, Malaysia. So it was for ITD's client in Penang. And you know, in Penang, it's almost like in Cebu, diba? So there are a lot of these semiconductor companies. So I was with a group of engineers. And what we did is we went to Penang Hill. So for those who are familiar with, for those who are might be aware of Penang Hill, it's literally like it's a hill. There's a vehicle going up, you know, so it's like fresh air and all of that. Siguro parang a little bit of like Tagaytay for us. And we were there for a whole day. Okay, so the engineers are really out of the office. And talagang smell, fresh air. And I didn't really put them, I mean, we put them only in the classroom when they are already kind of gathering their thoughts and ideas, but they would have their individual time. And I leave them to wherever they want to go, if you want to kind of just look at the flowers or you want to kind of take photos of the scenery in front of you. And because we don't know how it will spark ideas. Come to think of it, the last time that I did something similar, but this one kasi is really creativity and innovation because they have a particular challenge in their plant. So the key question is clear. You get me? There's a particular need that they want that they need ideas for. So everything is so aligned already. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm happy to report that by the end of that day, they came up with at least a laundry list of about 5 workable ideas that they're so excited to go home now, okay? Because they're gonna work on it. And they were all very grateful and thankful that, and sometimes parang my role is, oh, I only facilitated, but thank you, okay? They were so grateful that they would not have had those ideas. And of course, if you ask me, I'm not even sure of those ideas, right? Because I'm not from their world. But our role is really just to facilitate that learning. So
Yeah.
what worked there is that I am strongly supported by the two bosses. So they have really full support. Whatever you want to do with them, Serely, they are yours for the day. So that one, it really, really helps if you have that close coordination. We did the same in Tagaytay for a group of executives, but it's not technically for creativity and innovation, but they felt like, it's like me time. They walk around. I did that to just open the second day for reflection, and it was already awesome for them. When you ask me about the most really creative and innovative idea that came out from this program, um, that one, there's a bit of a challenge for me. Okay, and I will tell you why. It's because I don't get to see the fruition, no, the completion of the ideas that started in my workshop. I can only do that when people will, when my clients will tell me, hey, Serely, I kind of, like there is this one group, and perhaps this could answer that question. I have one that they saved 1 million pesos because of an innovation project about recycling, like recycling or putting to another use a particular component. Okay, a particular component of, and then if you ask me, I don't even know the component, but
See?
they were just telling, that they were just
Right.
telling me, that
Right.
component. And then one of the executives actually asked me, Seriously, I find it so strange. How come they didn't think of it, okay, earlier, okay? And then I kind of have to just breathe and say, hi. Of course, I
Well,
cannot say anything too much, but my thought bubble, Grace, no, you could say, maybe
actually,
you're the reason why they didn't think of it again.
correct, correct.
Sometimes people just need a stimulus.
Yeah.
You just need to be
Yeah.
in that perfect environment. You need to feel psychologically safe, right? You have to, there is an opportunity for you to do this. And that's the reason why I would strongly suggest. Now I also, the program that I started 2009, the Unleashing Creativity, is not the same program that I just thought my last program for the year. No, last year. Wow, that's last year already. December, I was my last workshop, December 21 and 23. I had a workshop and it was on unleashing creativity and innovation. What we did is do a presentation already during the session. That is also the bonus grace that I have because now our workshops, I don't need to be 2 straight days in Malaysia, right? Then after this, I have to fly back. This
Yeah.
time, you have breathing space in the
Right.
programs because we only
Right.
join via Zoom. So theirs was like the last Tuesday and Thursday, and then Tuesday and Thursday, or thereabouts, no? The last, practically the last second and third week of December. So they have ample time to work on their projects by themselves. So I gave them assignments. Plus their this is for the client in Penang. Their key leader was also a past participant of mine. So he was so supportive. Seriously, I really looked for ITD because we want you to be the one to handle the session and all. He even invited other managers to kind of do a bit of that critique on the idea because this is now idea selection, right? They're just gonna push. And then it is such a so rewarding for me to see that several ideas have been given the budgets, that they need to make it happen. So I'm just excited for what 2022 has in store for those ideas.
So wow, Sarah Lee, it's really you make us. I mean, like I would say the same thing, and I'm sure our viewers would say what I'm gonna say. We've learned a lot in a short how many minutes? Like you have shared so much about what creativity is, what we can do, how we can be innovative as leaders, how do we motivate? How do we motivate our team, our people? How do we encourage creativity and innovation? And with that, Sarah Lee, what would be your parting message to the viewers of Leaders Edge for this
Okay.
very exciting episode?
Thank you so much, Grace. And thank you to the viewers who actually stayed on and really learned together with us. This is very much just a conversation. Perhaps three things. Okay, three things that number one, every time that there is a new year, okay, I would always call it a new start. There is always something new, okay, that we can do every single day of our lives. So for me, the first, okay, try it out. Do something different every day, okay? Now we are just, in whatever day you are watching, you're watching this as well, that is now your day one. Do something different. It can be eating something you've never eaten before, wearing something on a slightly different color. I even had one friend, let's try na eating dessert, okay, before the starters. Just like something really
Yeah.
weird and crazy. Use your non-dominant hand. Okay, but you don't do that when signing the checks, huh? Okay, okay. But use your hand. There's so much crazy things that you can do. All right. The second one, and I'm borrowing some of these, these are not just by myself, no? The other one, also related to that first one, do something different every day, is that, friends, viewers, Grace, do you have something that you've always wanted to do, but you often would find excuses, reasons not to do it? So it can be like, for example, like in my case, I've never joined a marathon. Okay, you won't catch me dead on a marathon pre-pandemic. But since the pandemic and I've grown to my pandemic weight, I've now started kind of walking because that's one thing I can do. I cannot run. I think I'm too old to run, but I know I can walk and I can walk even going to your house, Grace. So I walk that whole sphere, that whole area, and now I'm joining virtual marathons. And
Wow.
and that was my key December 31. I joined a 10-kilometer Rome marathon. I forced, quote unquote, like I not really forced, but I motivated myself instead because it came with a medal and it came with a shirt. So it's going to arrive by mail, okay, as soon as I've completed on December 31 my 10 km. So what did Serely do? May fireworks na, naglalakad pa ako, okay, because I didn't finish mine. I didn't finish mine in the morning because it was so hot. But anyway, that was what. So it's do something that you've wanted to do before, but you always find an excuse not to do. It's a project. You can call it your 2022 project. So hindi lang doing something different every day. You can actually motivate yourself. And my suggestion to everybody, do something that sparks joy. O, 'di ba? Parang Marie Kondo, 'di ba? Do something that sparks joy. If you're not really for marathon, go. If you have green thumbs, o edi raise a whole entire garden, 'di ba? So there's so many things that you can do that you've always been putting off, and don't make the pandemic an excuse, right? Don't make the pandemic an excuse. It opens up so much more, opportunities for us that we never saw before. And the last, perhaps just a reminder, for all of us. Friends, we are all born creative. Okay. And I want to go back to the title of this session, right? Of this episode. It is in your hands to really unleash creativity and innovation. Many people have that notion that to be creative, to be innovative, you have to like invent the solar panel. Okay, you have to invent the cell phone. It's not the breakthrough. The way that we would really encourage everyone who's listening to this episode, you can be creative and innovative in your job, in your day to day, in everything that you do. I would always be reminded by something I picked up from Robert Tucker. Tony Buzan also supports this. He actually asked us to make sure we have this as our screensaver, okay, desktop. 6 words, and I will end there. There must be a better way. There must be a better way. If that is your mantra this 2022, right? There must be a better way in which I do things, right? In which I do my work, in which I manage my household, in which I really show up to people. There must be a better way. Then we can definitely unleash creativity and innovation. Thank you, Grace.
Perfect. There must be a better way. I'll also keep that in mind every day, just like how I would keep in mind what Father Dave would always say, better today than yesterday. And thank you so much, Sarah Lee. And I wish to see you here around the village. And great seeing you again, even if it's just virtually. It's been a wonderful episode. It's been a wonderful learning session with you. And thank you so much on behalf of the Leader's Edge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you agree with me that we have learned so much from this episode, and we will learn another exciting topic for the next episode, which is entitled Transformation through Growth Mindset. And we will have with us Mr. Eric Riego de Jos as our guest speaker. Remember, learning is a never-ending journey with limitless vistas. Goodbye, everyone, and see you again